I'm really excited today to kick off this webinar. On this webinar, we will be discussing all the latest features that ConnectBooks has. I've never done this in the past, so we are starting a quick series of doing this now. Um, ConnectBooks, as we are constantly rolling out like a ton of new features. And a lot of features that we're rolling out, most people don't even know. And that's the whole reason that we're doing this webinar, is to just tell everybody about the new features we're rolling out. And that's pretty much going to be what we're going to go. So my name is Nachman. I'm the founder of ConnectBooks, and along with me, I have Moishe, our product manager. And me and him will be just walking through this. This call is being recorded, so if anybody has any questions, I mean, you can always watch the recording afterwards. And if anybody has any questions, we do have a Q&A open, so put into the Q&A and we will discuss it. So with no further ado, we will begin right over here. Okay. Make sure that everybody can see my screen. Okay, so we are gonna go through today, walk through our first deck. Can you see my slide deck? Okay, so first thing is we're gonna have a couple of different features we're going through. We will first walk through general features, and then we will walk through features related to ConnectStock. So first thing is we have advanced FBA inventory tracking. So we improved. Moish, you want to chime in on this feature?
Yes, so we improved the way ConnectBooks handles FBA inventory. So until now, all inventory movement was connected to a financial event. So for example, any type of inventory reimbursement by Amazon, when Amazon gave you money for an inventory reimbursement, ConnectBooks took out a piece from inventory or added a piece back if it was a reversal. So
Right. So basically what you're saying is that we pretty much relied on the settlement report. That's the way I describe it. Right.
that's
So
correct.
basically up until now, we basically seen all the transactions in settlement report. So for example, if there was an order in the settlement report, that deducted inventory. If there's a refund in the settlement report, we put it back into inventory. We did have a feature of the unsellable returns. But then let's say if Amazon lost something, when they reimbursed you, that's when we deducted inventory. So pretty much everything went off the settlement report. And how do we now, does this also include a ledger report, or this is just based on the settlement report now, Moishi?
So this now goes based on the ledger report. So if Amazon loses inventory today, with the new system, ConnectBooks is going to take out a piece of inventory today. If they reimburse you in 2 months from now, you're not going to see an inventory piece going out in 2 months. You're going to see just the financial income that Amazon gave you. So the day Amazon loses inventory, that's the day you will see the piece taken out of inventory and the COGS deducted. And the day Amazon reimburses you with actual money, you will see a financial event of money coming in. So the inventory day is no longer connected to the reimbursement day. The same thing goes for removals. So with this new system, ConnectBooks now handles removals. When you remove inventory from Amazon, ConnectBooks can now check if it's unsellable inventory. ConnectBooks is going to record it as a loss. If it's sellable inventory, ConnectBooks can make a warehouse transfer and take it out from the FBA inventory. So the good thing about this is that it works hand in hand with Amazon's FBA actual inventory. So if today Amazon removes inventory, disposes inventory, or any type of event that happens in FBA, ConnectBooks will take the pieces out of inventory or add it back depending on the event in FBA. It's no longer connected to actual reimbursement or a dollar amount or a refund date. It's only connected to the date of the actual inventory event.
Right. So the way I want to explain it is that so that first of all, this feature is on for new customers. I think for existing customers, is Moshi this enabled for all existing customers, or they need to request it?
So all customers need to request that want to use this feature need to request
Existing.
Existing
Right.
customers. Anyone that signed up with ConnectStock within the last 3 weeks, we did enable it by default during the onboarding. But anyone that signed up ConnectBooks to ConnectStock prior to the last 3 weeks, they'll need to reach out, and ConnectBooks support will enable it on their account.
All right. So what I want to highlight is that we changed a little bit around the reports, and that was the main reason. So first, by default, you'll see 2 new columns. We have the sales quantity and the refunds. Now, in the past, when you go to the dropdown, there used to be like 5 boxes here, and 1 box would be quantity. We removed the quantity, and we basically put the quantity here. Now, the idea is that, let's say, for example, refunds. So here are these 77 refunds. Now, this represents that Amazon gave back to the customer, meaning Amazon refunded 77 units, and this is how much the seller lost. They lost $710. But that doesn't mean that we deducted 77 units out of inventory. By the cost of good, I mean, in this case, you see that this was the case. I think the setting might not be enabled in this account. Give me a second. I will show you in a different account over here what it looks like. Give me a minute. Let's see.
So essentially, the returns when you reimburse a customer for a refund, that's a financial event happening. It doesn't mean you got back the actual piece back to inventory. Versus with the new system, if Amazon actually gets back the piece in the FBA warehouse, that's when ConnectBooks is going to put back the piece in our inventory system or in your QuickBooks file, and the piece will be put back to inventory. It's not going to be counted as a loss.
Right. So this you see over here, that's why we have two different quantities. So example, in this case, refunds is 35, but we actually only reimbursed 22. I'm sorry, reimbursed 35, but only got back 22. So that's why we have the quantity column was removed, and then we have separate quantities for cost of goods sold and separate quantities for financial transactions. Now, sales will always be the same. So you see over here it's 681, and this is also 681, meaning the quantity is always going to be the same. But basically, the idea is that we're using different metrics to calculate cost versus calculating the sales, just because we want to have more streamlined and accurate FBA reconciliation.
So as you could, just one more point, as you can see in this, go back, Nachman, just a second, as you can see in this screenshot, that the cost of goods sold went down by $2,100. Why? Because Amazon got back to their inventory 22 units. So your cost of goods sold gets reduced when the pieces actually come back and Amazon puts it back to inventory. It doesn't get reduced. Your cost doesn't get reduced when you issue a refund to customers. It only gets reduced once you get back the inventory pieces. That's when the cost of goods sold will go down and the inventory will go back up.
All right, cool. Okay, so our next feature right over here is going to be estimated fees for Walmart and eBay. So up until now, basically, whenever we get an order from, let's say, Amazon, when an order comes in, let's say January 1st, an order comes in. So an order comes in, Amazon doesn't give you along any fees. Amazon just gives you the order and the sales tax. Once the order ships and later on it posts a settlement report, that's when the fees get available. So what ConnectBooks does is we estimate the fees for Amazon before the order ships, and then once the order ships, that's when we post that. Then we look at the actual fees. So we do the same thing with Walmart and eBay. With Walmart and eBay, we estimate the fees. Once it ships and it posts like whether on Walmart settlement report, on the eBay settlement report, that's when we have it. That's when we actually do on the actual stuff. So this is a new feature that just came out. Okay, so returns by order date. This is a very cool feature. Really love it. And this feature basically, I would say probably more for people like dealing in the season in Q4. Okay, so Q4 basically where everybody has a bunch of orders, and then the problem is, and I actually seen like a person once had like a $3 million settlement in Q4, and then in January they had like a negative 500,000. Why? Because they have done so much, actually it's probably more than 3 million. But what I'm trying to say is that they've done so many orders in December, and the problem is that Amazon gives like a very long extension on holiday orders. So the challenge is what a lot of people want to understand is how much money are we making in December, but we also want to see the returns based on December. What I mean to say is, for example, if an order comes in December 15 and the customer returns it January 20th, you want that return to be associated with December order. Now, from an accounting perspective, it's completely wrong. From an accounting perspective, we always do returns based on when the returns, happen. Meaning from an accounting perspective, you never want to go back and adjust your books. You don't want to like say, oh, I closed at December, but now I found that I made less money. So that's why in QuickBooks, we would never update any like the returns. The returns are going to happen based on when the refund comes in and based on when the returns happen. However, in ConnectBooks, we're able to run a report. So let me show you what we would do. So in ConnectBooks, what you would do is you'd go into the P&L, and then over here you'd have a returns by order date. When you do a returns by order date, basically what ConnectBooks will do is it'll take all the returns and it will associate based on the order. So if I'm, let's say, running it in January, it's going to give me all the sales from January and all the returns that were generated by these orders. So you have to make sure to check off this date returns by order date, and then it goes based on the original order. So let's say, for example, let's look at a minute at December, right? If I'm going to go back now, let's say to December, let's just look at December for a minute. Let me take off a minute the check date. I'm going to take this off for a second. So, for example, this product has, let's say, 12 refunds, okay? If we do returns by order date and we put it in over here, see the product had 31 refunds. So the idea is the refunds came up a lot more. So the idea of returns by order date is it gives you a way to better estimate the profitability based off the returns that happen. Now, feature is only available in the reporting section. As I said before, from an accounting perspective, it doesn't make sense to constantly go back and readjust the books from previous months once it's closed out. So that's why the feature is only available on the ConnectBooks report. Okay, that's this one. The next feature that we have is business reports versus standard reports. So this is something simple where basically you can see also these different settlements for business order and business orders. So over here, what you can do is we have something called a group by. And then you could group by, like, I don't know if people really realize, but you could run the report by SKU, and then you could group it in different ways, or you could run it by ConnectBooks item and group it. So if you go to the group by, you could do group by, let me see,
Order type.
order type. Yeah.
Yes.
So the order type, that basically is going to tell you if it's okay, this one is not a good account.
No, you have to go back to reports and select again P&L.
Oh, I have to go back.
Yeah, sales.
Go back.
Yeah, now
Okay.
do order type. The same thing. Just go to order type. Yep.
Order type.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, so here you can see the difference between standard and business. And then when you obviously jump in, when you click in, you'll see all the other SKUs and you see the information like that as well. So you could, let's say, for example, a particular SKU, you can copy it and even over here, and you can see like this too. This is pretty cool. You can do this way also.
You can see your profit margin ROI on a standard order, the same item when it's a standard order versus a business order. Like, where's your profit higher or lower?
And also, don't forget, you can add in a bunch of columns over here, like other stuff you want to see. You can add in, like, you can add in any different column that you want to see, particular on each product, you're able to see it as well. Got it. All right. Our next feature that we have is, Oh, so this is a cool setting. We're not going to dive into this too complicated. This is more like I call like an advanced user setting. So basically, ConnectBooks always had advanced settings that only admins were able to change. So basically, this setting is available for basically any user. So the idea really is that, let's say, for example, if you're a bookkeeper using ConnectBooks, and let's say you already have 2 accounts with ConnectBooks, now you're signing up another 2. So let's say you're working on a Sunday or late at night and ConnectBooks not available now, and you want to enable certain admin settings. We now took all the admin settings and made it available for every single user. So let me show you what I'm talking about. And also, Moishe made a beautiful help article about it where it describes it. So when you're going to go to integration, you can go to stores and files. You're going to select the store, and under store,
you have to go to the other account.
The other account. Okay, give me a second.
503.
Yeah, go there.
So just a quick background, there were certain QuickBooks settings that were only available for ConnectBooks support and ConnectBooks admins. And whenever a user wanted to change it, they had to reach out to support, ask them to change a specific backend setting. All of these settings are now available for users. They just go to the QuickBooks settings and they click Configure Advanced Settings. And all of the settings that were hidden until now is now available for all the users to configure and set it up the way they prefer.
Right. So basically, you go to the advanced, meaning you're going to come to this settings page, and then over here, you'll see a new button. You can do hide or configure. And now there's a bunch of different stuff over here. Now, over here, I just want to say this button, click here to learn more, is going to bring you to this help article, which we actually wrote what each thing does. So, and I'll just say, just be careful before you enable anything. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to support. But the idea is that a lot of times we have existing bookkeepers that already have accounts with ConnectBooks, and as they're adding a new accounts, they really don't want to wait for ConnectBooks to enable that. So that's where say we hand the keys back over to you. All right. Um, okay. Next thing is all group by options are now calm. So Moishe, what is this feature?
This feature is now on the P&L reports. Until now, when a user wanted to see any type of group by option, so for example, they wanted to group their P&L report by store, and they also wanted to add a column of the stores. So like this, they can export it to Excel, build their own pivot tables, or let's say they wanted to run a report by buyers and be able to add the categories, the seasons, and all of that columns. All of these options are now available on the column chooser. So you no longer are limited or restricted to only be able to see one group by or only one type of column. You can now see any type of data that is available on the P&L report, like a category, season, buyer, store, anything that was available until now only by one type of group by, you can now add as a column chooser. So you can play around with the report, export to Excel, and do with the data whatever you like.
So this feature was primarily requested for people who do pivot tables. So they were exporting this to Excel, and they were complaining that they wanted to have on each line item have the additional column. So they wanted to do both. They wanted the column was always available, but they wanted to group it and add it in. So that's where we're able to do it. Cool. All right. Our next new feature is upload additional fees. Ooh, this is really, really a nice feature. In the past, we had a very complicated way how to add additional fees. So for example, let's say you're paying let's say you have a buyer, you're paying him commission. So you want to see in ConnectBooks P&L how much money you make after your buyer's commission. Or let's say you have shipping costs in a different platform that ConnectBooks doesn't have integration with, or whatever additional fees you want to add. So you go to the sales tab and you go to add additional fees. Over here, you can just go like this, and you select whatever store you want to associate it with, whatever product. I don't know. Let's say I'm pricing this product. Let's say I'm putting in $5. And then let's say the fee is going to be agency commission. Okay. So, and you just do add new, and then it adds this in, and then you put in the date of the fee. Let's say the date is going to be, last month, and do save. Now, in my dummy account, it's not going to work. But when you run a report in ConnectBooks afterwards, it will show additional fee under the fee section. It will show, the fee would show up under this. You can also delete it, edit it. You could also do by order. So let's say, for example, the use case would be more like for shipping. If you have, let's say, a bunch of shipping, like if you have shipping where you download it from a certain portal, you upload it by that you can upload by individual order. And then you could also import this via Excel. And as always, ConnectBooks always includes a sample template. So if you have any questions how to upload it, you just follow the template. And then you bring in everything over here. You can also filter by store. You can also filter by different fees. So I only have one fee, but more you can filter by different fees, filter by date, fees, and you can also search by product. So you can see which product you add additional fees. These also very cool features of bulk delete. So let's say you add in a bunch of
That's on the
fees over
top
here.
right.
Yeah, so you have to first select it and then oh, this is nice. How does this work, Moishe? Moishe, I'm mute.
Sorry.
How does this feature work? What is the filter?
Very
Oh, you
easy.
can filter.
Yeah. So let's say you uploaded 100,000 fees, like some customers have a lot of fees they want to upload, and they realize certain dates are not correct or certain fees they uploaded are not correct. You can
Got
customize
it.
what you delete, either all the fees from January or all fees that are called agency commission. You can customize what you want to delete, and it's going to go through thousands of lines and
So,
delete only the ones that you select that you
so the
chose.
idea is you don't need to multi-select, meaning you don't
Right.
need
The
to multi-select.
multi-select is only going to delete what you selected. So if you have want to delete, let's say 3 different lines, you'd use the multi-select. If you want to delete 10,000 lines, you're not going to use the multi-select. You're going to use the bulk delete.
Nice. Wow. Cool feature. Really nice, Mushy. And then you can always export everything in Excel. If you want to have all the fees in Excel, you can export it from here over here. Nice. All right, moving on. So our next features are more geared around Connect Stock. Okay. So inventory turnover ratio report. So Inventory turnover ratio, I'm just going to describe in exactly 60 seconds. We are going to be hosting webinars more in depth about this report. This is something that I can talk about this for like hours and hours, but I don't want to, the report is available in ConnectStack, but the real idea is the way I describe it always is like if I give you $100 and with this $100 you can buy two products, one product that sells for 250, one product that sells for 120. Obviously, you will buy the product that sells for 250. But what if I tell you the product that sells for 250 will take you a year to sell versus the product that sells for 120 will take you a month to sell? So then you rather buy the product for 120 because you buy the product, sell it in 1 month, and then you buy another one and you constantly keep on selling it. So the question really is how fast do you spend your inventory? So the idea of the inventory turnover, it takes the ROI, meaning the ROI will be your profit divided by the cost, was the cost of the product that was your investment, times the amount you flip. So your best performing products, and other products are the best margin, they're the products that have the highest ROI with the best turnover. And we'll have a whole webinar discussing more about this. The next thing is forecasting. So ConnectBooks also rolled out a forecasting report. These features you can, if you would go to ConnectBooks, you go to inventory, you'll see right over here inventory forecasting, and you'll see inventory turnover. We will have another webinar about this, so I'm not gonna dive into this as well. But just on a brief note, like if you run the forecasting, you can see sales velocity where you calculate your, how many sales you did, meaning you could say based on all these different days and put in different percentages. And I don't want to jump into this right now, but if anybody has ConnectStack, you can see the forecasting report and you could see, what's going on and where stuff are up to. But we'll have another webinar, going more in depth about this and how to work about this. Okay, so then we have another feature is create POs from restock report. So if you're already utilizing the ConnectBooks forecasting, let's say you want to reorder all these products. Let's say select
There
those
is a
three products.
multi-select on the right side. There's select all on the top right.
Oh, nice, cool. You can do select all or deselect all, or let's say we select a few, and then you have an option right over here where you could create a purchase order. You can also group this by vendor, so it might make it a little easier if you group this by vendor to create a purchase order. Let's say for just a particular vendor, might be easier to do it as well. And this going more, we'll have another webinar where we get more into the forecasting, so we're not gonna, spend more time in it now. Okay, our next thing is auto set POs and numbers. So if you want, Moishe, you want to chime in?
Sure. So this is features is users that are creating invoices in ConnectBooks or purchase orders in ConnectBooks. And instead of just manually putting in a purchase order number, invoice number for every single invoice, they can now go to inventory settings in the file and set up their default invoice number and purchase order number. And ConnectBooks is going to go in a sequence from that number. So let's say your PO number is up to 512. You can put in by the PO number PO 512. And the next purchase order is going to be PO 513, 514. We will keep track where you're up to and just constantly create a default purchase order number. You don't have to manually put it in. You can also put in custom PO numbers. So let's say it's Delta-75 pound 6. You can put that in, and ConnectBooks is going to use that, and the next one is going to be the same PO number, just with a 7 and an 8 and so on. So this works for purchase orders and invoices. You don't have to create or figure out where you're up to with purchase orders, and then you have to go to purchase orders, and you can you see it's Delta-56. And the next one is going to be Delta-57. And this works for purchase orders and invoices. I have to put in a vendor and a arrival date. You see, it's Delta-57.
And the same thing's going to happen for the sales.
Correct.
Nice. Okay.
For bills, it's not really necessary because bills you usually put in the vendor bill number. So for now, we only have the purchase orders and invoices, which is what the user generates.
Okay. AWD adjustment. So Moishe, how does this work?
So this is a feature for users that are using AWD, which is Amazon's 3PL, to keep their inventory. So whenever they want to make a reconciliation, until now, they have to go to ConnectBooks, export the AWD report, figure out how many units they have now in stock, and make an adjustment with a difference. Now, if you just go to ConnectBooks, you select adjustments, bulk adjustment, and you select the AWD adjustment, ConnectBooks is going to make a reconciliation to the AWD inventory and the warehouse you selected with the date that you selected. So let's say you want to adjust your inventory as of 12/31 to match what Amazon actually had in AWD. You can use this button, and ConnectBooks is going to reconcile it to match AWD.
Nice. But I would just highlight that the goal is not to use the adjustments, meaning the goal is that you enter your bills and then meaning how does the AWD flow? You enter your bill into a local warehouse or you enter directly to AWD?
So the AWD is for people that are manually making transfers from their local warehouse to AWD. So that we
But
have
from AWD to FB, but from AWD to FBA we pick up, right?
yes. We pick
Got
up all FBA shipments. So if the source warehouse is AWD, it's going to go from AWD.
Got it. Got it. So basically, but most of the times what people do is they'll have in the local house, let's say 1,000 units and let's say ship 500 to AWD. So they make a transfer from local to AWD, let's say 500 units. And then from AWD to FBA, ConnectBooks will automate. And then the next thing that and then, like year end, if you want to reconcile AWD, you just have it with a click of a button. Same as FBA and the other ones, right?
Correct.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. So next one would be schedule adjustments for shipment. So this feature actually goes back over here. Goes back the same idea of adjustments. So let's say you want to reconcile your FBA inventory, you can
Click
do
on
the same
schedule.
way. Right. So you do a FBA adjustment and then you select a warehouse and then let's say you want to do sellable and you put in the proper date and you adjust accordingly. Now, if you want to have this automated and you don't want to constantly have to do it, you can basically go over here to schedule and then you select the adjustment type and you select the FBA warehouse and you could schedule whatever you want to do. So this is a very cool feature. If you wanted just to run on its own, it could automatically adjust your FBA, AWD, and clear out negative inventory if you want to do this on an automatic schedule. Now, then we also have on the in-transit. So the in-transit warehouse, that has to
FBA
be
shipments.
that is the here, no, not this one. Yeah.
Yes.
So the in-transit has to be done through the shipment page. Basically, that's where we do all the shipments. So over here, you would see all shipments for FBA. And then when you go to the discrepancy page, is any shipment that the status gets marked as closed is going to pop up here. So discrepancy won't pop up till it's closed. I mean, if you want to see open, you can check this off. Sometimes people want to have open shipments because let's say they know how, like I've seen Amazon, let's say over receive, like let's say here, they under receive, over receive here 75 and here they under receive 75. Now, actually one feature that was done a long time ago is that you could run this by item. So what I've had a lot of times is that not always did the SKU match. Sometimes it was more by item that matched up. If let's say there were two different SKUs or something like that. So I like to run the report by item. And based on that, we would do the adjustments. Now here we also have a schedule because what the schedule basically does, you can, create an adjustment. And then the cool thing about this was, and this is what, I liked a lot, is that I always adjust the in-transit. The challenge with the in-transit that I have is that, first of all, I would only do it, let's say the shipment closed today, maybe you want to wait a couple of days. So you could apply the rule after, when the shipment is done. Let's say 5 days, it says here 30, but let's say 5 days, 10 days, whatever you want. Now, this is very cool. Here you do if discrepancy is less than. So let's say your discrepancy is only, so in a case where I have a 2-3 unit discrepancy, I'm not going to look into it. It's just way too many to constantly look into, and we just adjust it and write it off. However, if the discrepancy, let's say, is like much bigger, let's say it's a 500 unit discrepancy, I want to look into it. So in this case, we don't want ConnectBooks to like blindly adjust every single one. So that's why we made this engine. And on this engine, what we have is we have a percentage, which I love a lot. So you could say that if the discrepancy is less than 10%, do an adjustment. If it's more than 10%, then don't adjust, and then it's going to stay over here. And then you'll manually, have to click in each one and do an adjustment. All right. Sync by some items. This is also a very cool feature. So with ConnectBooks, what we have is we have two things. We have something called listings, and then we have something called items. So basically, on the listings is where every single listing will show up here, and then under inventory settings is where all the buyers would show up. Um, the Moishe, goes from the listings to the items, or the other way, or
The
both
other
ways.
way. The other way. So
Meaning it
users that are
pushes.
correct. So the way it works is, let's say a company has multiple buyers and they want to give permissions for the buyers to only be able to view their items on the P&L reports. So until now, they had to assign the buyer by the listings page. They had to go through all listings and assign the buyer to each listing that they're responsible for. And then they had to go to ConnectStack and set the buyer on the ConnectStack item, which is connected to the listings. Going forward, you don't have to do the same thing twice. You can just go to the item, assign them as a buyer, and ConnectStack is going to go and sync the buyer to all the connected listings. So you no
Nice.
longer have to go again and put them as a buyer by the listings.
So in this case, like this person has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 listings tied to one item. So if you just go to the item and over here, where is it?
By
No,
additional information. Here we go. Yep.
oh, right over here. So you put it over here, you could right over here select the buyer. And if you select right over here the buyer, then basically it will automatically sync it across all these 7 or 8 listings.
That's correct.
Nice. All right. Um, So this is another new feature we just created, is that when you create POs in ConnectBooks, so when you run to ConnectBooks, so when you go to purchasing, you have a PO, you have an option to send over here to vendor, and you can send it directly to the vendor. To modify the setting, you can go to inventory files, file settings, and Moshe, where do you do it over here?
Purchase order email settings on the right side.
Oh, here. Right. So you go edit and you do email settings. So you have the vendor name, and then you have reply to, where the reply to email address should be, like where should that come? And then you have the subject line and then the content what to write. You can also add in CCs. We recommend that you do a double check before you enable this. So when you enable it, put in your own email address and do a double check, make sure that everything comes out correctly, and then go ahead and enable it to the vendor. So basically, in the past, you would have to export a PDF and then download and send from there. Now you could just put into ConnectBooks and just send it directly. Okay, and this is close appeal without a bill. So basically what happened was we had let's say if you create a purchase order. So example, let's say this purchase order, okay? So this is partial receipt. Like we ordered over here 2,500 units and we still have 128 open, right? And let's say the vendor's never gonna send this anymore. So what you want to do is you want to close out this purchase order. So you could just do mark as closed, and that's how when I mark this purchase order as closed, it's gonna be status closed manually, and it's not going to be included in anything. So one thing is also important, because on the forecasting report, for example, if it's still open, then ConnectBooks will say, oh, you still have incoming units. If you don't have any incoming units or you're closing out the PO, you can just mark as closed. So then it's not going to show up anymore in the forecasting, and it won't show up anymore. The idea is that you don't want to modify the PO. You want to leave the PO the same, but you know that you're not receiving the products anymore. So that's this feature as well. All right. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, and that's it. That's
Nachman,
all
there's
the new.
one new feature that I feel like we released it yesterday, and we can announce it already. It's pretty cool. It's a gimmick, but a lot of people use it. So in QuickBooks, you can use any cost field as a calculator. So let's say you want to calculate the cost of goods sold. You go in a bill. Nachman, open any bill. Click Edit, add a new line. And then let's say you purchase any item. And then by the cost field, you can use it as a calculator. So you can put in 20 times 30, or any type of
Nice.
cost. You can use it as a calculator. You can use it's the same way QuickBooks worked. So I know a lot of users were used to using QuickBooks feature of having the field as a calculator. Now ConnectBooks has that, so it should make it easier to transition from QuickBooks inventory tracking to ConnectStack. We're trying to make it as easy, as simple, and streamlined as possible, so to make your life easier.
Got it. Cool. All right. If anybody has any questions, you can post in the chat or the Q&A. I don't think there's any questions in the Q&A.
That means you did a good job, Nachman. explaining.
Yeah. All right. So this is gonna be this is recorded and you'll be able to watch this and we'll be sending out a recording as well for all the other participants. And thank everybody for joining. And I hope you guys are having a great time with ConnectBooks and these any other great features you would like us to build. Just go to our let's here, just go back a second. If you want to ever submit a feature, what you do is you go to ConnectBooks, under Need Help, do Roadmap and Feedback. And under the Roadmap and Feedback, you'll have the option to suggest an idea, and then our product team will review it and take it from there. All right. Thank everyone for joining, and have a great day.